about what they've done well to get to this point. And it's starting to see them in here for 30 years.
Well, I think you got to respect the program that they're building, and I think that's from the top down, and it's the culture and everything that goes with it. I think also, say it's pretty impressive from what Jake Fromm has done. And he's got a lot of criticism lately, but first quarterback, I think, since Danny Werfel to have done it 3 straight years. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And they've also made a statement in this game 2 years ago against Auburn. Last year, if Tua doesn't get hurt, they probably win that game walking away. And so they've made a big statement, and I think tomorrow they have a chance to make another one.
Tim, you played on a lot of big stages in your career. You played in this game a couple of times. How do you rate this one compared to any of the stages you've been on anywhere?
Yeah, this is a big one. This is different. I think it's different. For us, we knew it was going to be our toughest game. Out of the 3 years I played in it, we really believed 2 of those years for sure it was the national championship. It was what we marked down at the beginning of the year every year. That's the biggest game. That's our biggest goal. And sometimes people don't really get that or understand that, but for us it was, if we win the SEC, the rest will take care of itself. It's always been a hard game. There's a lot of pressure. It's a different environment than most of them. I think Georgia's a little bit used to it because the Florida-Georgia game is split 50-50. I think Georgia's probably used to having more fans in this game than other teams. I think LSU is going to show up pretty well, though, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with fanfare. But it's a different environment, and I think this is a big one of just kind of, all right, settling down, breathing, getting into the game, realizing that it's still the same game we've been playing all year, even though sometimes the nerves can get to you, and that is real in this game.
Tim, can Joe Burrow lose the Heisman tomorrow?
I think it's going to take a tough performance out of him, and I just don't know who it. I mean, I just don't think Chase Young would have to have a huge game. Jalen Hurts would have to have an amazing game. Justin Fields, I think, is just a little bit too far behind. I think Joe's just done so much this year that I think he would have to really lose it first team, and someone else would have to have some huge Heisman moments. But I think it's Joe's by far.
Even if he has a bad game, LSU wins, you still think it's his?
I'm trying to think. It all depends on who really steps up and who's that number 2 person. You would look at it for going into last week, and you'd probably say Chase Young because of the way he's been able to dominate, but then not being able to really come up with any big plays last week in a big-time televised game. I think that hurt his Heisman chances. So I think Justin Fields has a chance. Some people would talk to J.K. Dobbins, Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen would have a shot if he played really well, but I don't know if all the voters would respect Baylor's defense enough to give him the edge over that. I think Joe's body of work against really good teams over and over again and just not making mistakes, and then in crucial moments coming up big, Texas, Auburn, Alabama, just every single time he's come up big. I think he's by far the leader.
If Georgia's going to win tomorrow, they have to play better offensively than they played all season long. How much of that is really a possibility? And if so, what will they do to kind of outpace their previous performances this season?
Well, I think they need to play complementary football. It can't just be this offense, we need more points. No, I think it has to be a team football game. You have to play complementary football. I think the offense has to support the defense, meaning, you can't just, they get a stop, put them right back on the field. You need to get at least 2 first downs, control the clock, keep Joe Burrow off of the field. I think the average possessions in an SEC game this year are like 12.3 in a game. So if you're Georgia, you're saying, all right, is there a way we can limit LSU to 10 possessions? And then if we can take one away at the end of the first half, we'll limit it to 9. Then we can get 2 turnovers. We'll probably limit it to 7. All right, those 7 possessions, can we hold them to 3 touchdowns and a field goal? And, I think that's the way you process a game and break it down and say, okay, if, they have, 24, is there a way we can, beat them to 27? I think that's where you look at complementary football and everything coming into play. And I think what's also going to need is the receivers got to step up for Jake and for this Georgia offense. Jake has to play well. You got to get DeAndre Swift going, but you need receivers. Your top 2 will be out for at least the first half. and your number 3 receiver has been DeAndre Swift. So I think that's going to really help to give them balance. And then you got to win. You got to win the. By far, you got to win the turnover battle and the kicking game.
As a quarterback, how would you handle that situation at receiver? As you mentioned, no Cage or no Pickens for the first half. What would you do in that spot if you weren't quite sure of what you had on the receiving end?
Well, I try to manage it with game plan. I would try to take my time. I wouldn't be up tempo. I would try to get DeAndre Swift involved. I would try to create mismatches for what my guys do well. Robert's is fast, and so I try to get him to speed, some crossing routes. I would try to be able to get some of my other backs involved as well, because they got a lot of speed and athleticism, and so I would really try to game plan it well.
So if you look at this LSU defense, a lot of guys that have a lot of talent, these guys in the NFL, but it just doesn't seem like it's merged together. What do you think is the problem? What has kind of been the problem? How do they?
Well, I think they played well in the first half early in games, and I think they've kind of taken a little bit of a side going in the second half when they've gotten some leads, and I just don't think you can do that in this game or in the playoff. And they do have a lot of good talent, but I think you also have to piece it together. And I think they're playing their best football, and I think they played their best defensive game against A&M. So it's a good time to kind of start doing that.
If Georgia gets down early, do you think this offense is capable of coming back?
Coming back's not just about offense. I think it's also defense, it's special teams. It's all that coming together. If you get down, then you have to get multiple stops in a row too. So I think obviously they haven't shown that a lot this year. That they were a consistently explosive offense. But they do have the weapons to do it, and we've seen it, Jake, do it at times too. So.
Tim, you've been on record